Hey guys, I'm going to restart these videos because the three of you who watched them asked me. I do just want to say on a note, if anyone was wondering why I did stop them, right after I'd started them up again, my good friend Brian Olbrecht had passed away unexpectedly, and to be honest with you, I didn't feel like doing anything. So actually, I saw on Facebook, I forgot it. It's been a whole year since that happened, and I realized he would have called me a pansy if I had stopped doing things I liked, like talking about politics to 4 or 5e on YouTube, because I was still upset. So I'm going to restart these and kind of do what I like and talk about things. So one of the things I obviously like is politics, but my second favorite thing ever is probably movies and storytelling in general. I think it's deeply related to politics, and I can sort of explain why in this video. But one of the my favorite YouTube videos to watch ever are things basically dissecting The Last Jedi, because I think it's a great window into how politics has been injected into the movies, storytelling, and it explains a lot about our current divide. So let's go over it. For those of you who don't know about Star Wars, and I'm a huge Star Wars fan, I've been playing the Old Republic MMO on and off for like 6 or 7 years now. I've seen the movies, I don't know how many times. They are in my top 5. Aliens is the best movie ever made, but Star Wars is right up there. It's essentially a hero's journey tale. It is as bland and straightforward a hero's journey as you can get. It is just copied straight from, I forget the name of the book. I think it's something A Man of a Thousand Faces, but it's a book deeply steeped in Jungian archetypes. That's why, Luke is sort of, and Nietzsche too, for that matter. Luke is sort of becoming the overman. He's overcoming his demons. He's fighting the Jungian shadow, who is a literal physical being in Darth Vader. And it's about as straightforward as it gets. Luke needs to overcome these monsters, but he can't do it with brute force. He can't kill them, or he becomes them. You stare into the abyss stares back into you. You have to become a better person. You have to overthrow, the shadow within you, become at peace, as a Jedi would do, right? And, well, win. So, that resonated with American audiences specifically. Why it became such a big phenomenon is because, as Jung said, there's part of this collective unconscious that we all have. And it makes us want and yearn for certain stories, certain archetypes. That's why you see so many things pop up over, different cultures, different millennia even, where everything looks very similar in storytelling. That's why you have so many of the Jesus parables that, exist in Egypt. You have Zoroastrianism, and they all sort of follow the same basic structure. It's why you have threes everywhere. Religions and storytelling love threes for some reason. I have no clue why, but in Hinduism you have the triplets. You have, even in Catholicism, which is a monotheism, you have the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. It's like you can't get rid of these triplets. And one of these archetypes, like I said, is the hero's journey and overcoming yourself, sort of acknowledging your pain, your inner struggle, which is often what religious doctrines teach in the first place. I mean, Buddhism is almost a direct analogy to that. And it resonated particularly well with Americans because in American culture we sort of believe in the hero's journey to an extreme. We are so capitalistic and free that if you overcome your own demons, you make yourself presentable, pick yourself up, you can make money, you can start a business, you can become anything you want if you just try hard enough and, overcome your shadow. And The Last Jedi sort of, again, this is not incorrect. It's a bold move, especially with American audiences, but they said, we're going to turn that around. We're not going to make Star Wars into a hero's journey. Now, if I was in the executive chair, I would have said, you're fucking crazy. And I would have said, do this with any other franchise, maybe not one that is so steeped in black and white analogies of good and evil for you to start muddying the waters of what's good and evil and what's right and wrong. And obviously, you can even make that argument within the Star Wars universe, so I do want to get this out of the way because it is not implicitly wrong to try this with Star Wars, but it was a big leap. You can make an argument, well, the Sith are evil, right? They are a religious cult that abducts children from planets. The ancient Sith Empire was. Let's talk about that. They were evil religious cult that abducted these children off these planets, took them to Korriban to train them as soldiers in their war to embrace the deeper, darker emotions of their psyche and become zealots for the cause. They're so much more evil than the Jedi, who were a religious cult who abducted children from planets, took them to their training on Tython, and then told them to disregard all of their deeper, darker emotions like love and reproduction. Yeah, you can obviously make an argument that there's some ambiguity to how both of these sides are working. The Jedi, and Luke says this in The Last Jedi, the Jedi's legacy is failure. They let the Sith rise to prominence and created an empire inadvertently at the height of their power. They were directly responsible for Vader and the deaths of millions of people, and they failed as protectors. All right, we can do this. Why they failed, though, is because Rey, the main character, doesn't go through a hero's journey. You can subvert expectations, and that's the term they love to use, about maybe saying the hero's journey was incorrect. You could have criticized the Americanness of the hero's journey, thinking, if they wanted to go down this lefty route, where they, the rich are on the planet with their slave animals and whatever that weird offshoot was in The Last Jedi. And criticized it and said, well, here is how the hero's journey is going to reappear now. It's not going to be in the old black and white of everything, but you've got to offer up something. Some sort of change in Rey, even if it's just caring. You could have made her, this is why I think people got the other Rogue One incorrectly, because the hero's journey for the main character in that, I forget her name, and that's actually an indicator the story wasn't that great, but her hero's journey was going from ambiguous about the war to being involved in it directly, and I still think that's a decent way to pull off a story, and that's why I liked it. I'm more open to that type of storytelling, even though it's not the way I would have done it. Now, with Rey, again, there's no story here. She just has all the powers. She doesn't need training. But again, there's an awakening in the Force. There's something that can be explained. You can explain this somewhere, something. I'm trying to talk about this, but there was nothing there. There's no story structure to it. And when you take something deeply ingrained, like the hero's story and American culture, which I think are intertwined, it's going to fail. So, viewing it through that lens, what does this tell us sort of about the modern political landscape and why this has become a politicized issue? Because the fight we're essentially having over the right and left now is whether the hero's tale, the hero's journey, the everyman story of making it big in America, the American dream, whether or not that's true. Whether it's a dream to aspire to and the journey of getting there, or journey of going through life in America is worth it if you don't get to your end goal of becoming a rich, prestigious, millionaire, awesome person, good at everything. Or if this is just a lie with the deck stacked against you constantly. And that's sort of playing out in movies. And they wonder, oftentimes, why people who are very pro-America, people who are right-wing and conservative, don't like when these movies come out, because they view it as an act of subversion, and then the left literally admits we are subverting expectations, subverting the traditional Americanized story of the hero's journey, and they say, well, what's the problem? I wonder. And then they accuse, again, do what bad liberals do and create straw men and not ad hominem and non sequitur and start attacking people for not liking the stories because of a black lead or a female lead or insert any sort of cisgendered minority lead that you can put in there. They won't actually do that either, too. Just to point out that hypocrisy. I've still not seen the movie with a cisgendered lead, but Hollywood can get off their high horse whenever they want to. So that's sort of the issue we have in our American politics right now. Obviously, and even our president is literally the American dream, right? He started out with $1 million, a small loan from his father, and then he gets, I did Bernie Sanders there by accident, and becomes a billionaire out of it. Becomes not just a successful businessman, literally becomes a president, literally becomes the most powerful man in the world. Obama himself even said the American dream is to be Donald Trump. And you have this iconoclast sort of just up there, literally the most powerful man in the world, and you wonder why people who thought the American dream was under assault, either through politics or even through, like I said, Hollywood movies that are subverting expectations, why they cling to him so much, why they idolize him. Because he is not representing himself, he's representing a way of life. He's representing the hero's journey. And the hero is a bit of an anti-hero, isn't he? He's kind of like the guy in the Western. He says what he wants. He's not exactly polite. He's a bit of a womanizer. Are you seeing the parallels here? This is why Trump is unassailable to so many people. He doesn't fit the narrative of an evangelical, married once, Christian Protestant Republican. And yet people who are Christian Protestants, single married, upright standing citizens are okay with him. They're okay with the supposed womanizing. They're okay with the 3 divorces. They're okay with his rough language. And this is also another thread we have to go on, but that's also because liberals specifically tried to get rid of that idea that the president had to be that. We had this with Clinton. Job performance matters, right? Not the man's personal life. Get out of his personal life. Personal life doesn't matter. Now when his personal life is, well, to be used for political reasons, we do care about his personal life. The liberals opened up this can, and now they can't shut it. And rightfully so, they can't. And a couple good liberals have said this correctly. Bill Maher, who I think is what I always imagine what I want liberals to kind of be like, even though I don't, Bill Maher is still a liberal, so I don't agree with anything he says. But, he's still not a complete dickhead about everything, and, basically a zealot about things. He's able to admit when his side is wrong. And this is one of the things that he criticized them for, was protecting Clinton. And this was before this was a hot button issue that people just started coming around about now that Hillary's lost, and it's been, 3 or 4 years. So, well, that's basically it. That's what the point is. The hero's journey, the tale that the American dream is true, and people enjoy seeing that on the big screen. So when you change it, you subvert the expectation and don't replace it with something new. Not only are you guilty of, well, bad storytelling and bad writing, but you're going to piss off a lot of people when the country is very politically active. And that's basically why I think The Last Jedi failed. And, well, why we are where we are with our current political divide. So, I'll post this up, and like I said, I'm doing these in one shot now. I'm going to get video editing software or something if I really want to splice them together and make it a little more streamlined, I guess. But if I was rambling and I missed a couple points here or there, let me know, and I'll try to respond to them. Yeah.